Excellencies, dear professors, fellows, researchers, students, members and friends of the European University Institute. It's a great honor and a genuine pleasure to have you here with us today. On the occasion of the guest lecture delivered by an esteemed guest, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland, Radosław Sikorski. Please join me in welcoming him and his delegation to the Badia. Minister Sikorski, we are really grateful that you decided to join us here in Florence. At the UI, we see it as part of our mission to create spaces where the leading voices of European member states can be engaged with, where research and politics meets, exchange and discuss our common European future. The UI was funded with the mission, and I quote our convention, to deal with the great movements and institutions which characterize the history and development of Europe, and to provide a forum for exchange and discussion of ideas and experience shaping the European project. Your visit is a powerful embodiment of the UI fulfilling exactly this mission. Since joining the European Union in 2004, Poland has been often described as the new member state. After more than 2 decades, this description no longer holds, and not just because time has passed. Poland is a member no less than central to Europe's future, central to Europe's political debates, central to its democratic foundations. In recent years, in particular, Poland has demonstrated something very important for all of us, that democratic backsliding is not inevitable, and that a return to a strong, pluralistic, liberal democracy is possible. At the same time, Poland is central to a debate to which today's event is dedicated, European security. Poland, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion to Ukraine, has proven that European democracies can defend themselves. Poland has stood at the forefront of Europe's response to Russia, supporting its neighbors with determination, solidarity, and a clear sense of responsibility. These experiences should serve as a guidepost for our common future. More than this, Poland's contribution to European discussions, but also the open and democratic discussions happening inside Poland's public sphere, proves something else, a truth that we at the UI are acutely aware of, that questions of war and peace, of defense and security are not only technical or strategic questions. They are deeply political, ethical, and social. These are uncomfortable questions, and yet they must be debated openly, rigorously, and collectively. At a critical moment for Europe, the UI is committed to advance clear, rigorous thinking on Europe's future in changing global security architecture. We have come together today under the auspice of the EU Security Initiative, a platform for fostering co-creation with leading European security fora with the aim to refresh and strengthen our strategic thinking. The world today is one no one has imagined only 5 years ago, as we balance between values and interests, between freedom and security, between national responsibility and European solidarity. Universities, as spaces of intellectual freedom and critical inquiry, have a particular role to play here to slow down the pace of immediate reactions, to connect disciplines and perspectives, and to ensure that these debates remain anchored in evidence, intellectual honesty, and democratic dialogue. In this spirit, it is that we're especially pleased that today's lecture will be followed by an open discussion, because ultimately these questions should not be addressed only by governments or experts, but by all of us as members of democratic societies. So thank you once again for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the kind introduction and good words about my country. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for your invitation. It's a privilege to be here today at the European University Institute in the beautiful town of Fiesole, near to the beautiful city of Florence. Henryk Sienkiewicz, one of Poland's greatest writers and a Nobel Prize laureate for literature, once wrote that every civilized person has two homelands, his own and Italy. Yesterday marked an important anniversary in Italian history. On March 17th, 1861, the Kingdom of Italy was proclaimed. We have made Italy, now we must make Italians, Massimo d'Azeglio famously remarked at the time. The birth of a unified state did not immediately bring social unity. No wonder. Unity is neither a binary nor a static concept. It is a continuum and a process. At the end of the 18th century and to the middle of the 19th century, millions of Americans regarded themselves as Virginians or New Yorkers. Only by coming to Europe they were called Americans and finally recognized that they are one nation in effect of a bloody civil war. It requires persistence, patience, and the willingness to continuously overcome ever-present divisions. Humans are social animals and individualists at the same time. We keep asking ourselves the same question: are we better off together or on our own? Currently, in times of what some already call wrecking ball politics, the question seems to be omnipresent. Should we preserve the norms and regulations built over the years to keep us together, or should we tear them all down and start afresh? The number of actors opting for the latter has undeniably grown. Ironically, even the country which played a leading role in building that very international order after the Second World War, the United States, now questions its foundations. This gives an extra boost of confidence to those who seek to dismantle the system entirely. Many states see disruption as an opportunity, hoping the new arrangement will be more beneficial to their interests. I think it a bet that may play out badly for most of us, except for the biggest and the most powerful. Others go even further and claim we need no fixed guardrails at all. Flexibility and transactionalism have become the buzzwords of the day. What these countries want is not a rules-based, but a deals-based international order. They see international relations as an ever-changing constellations of ad hoc coalitions, made and unmade depending on the current needs and interests. To those people, I can only say, be careful what you wish for. The flexibility you so desire can easily bring about chaos and a dog-eat-dog world. Transactionalism has its appeal as a down-to-earth, supposedly pragmatic approach. But even the most unsentimental transactional relations must be based on some trust and predictability. And these are increasingly hard to come by. The attack on Iran, launched by Israel and the United States on February 28th, was, I assume, conceived as a security operation, but also as a message to America's adversaries. Quote, "This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States armed forces. There is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, and sophistication, end quote, President Donald Trump said at the time. Another quote, we are not defenders anymore. We are warriors trained to kill the enemy and break their will. This is Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on March the 2nd, Secretary for War. I was a defense minister. I wish they'd called me Secretary of War. But we still have a defense ministry. One can hardly sympathize with the Iranian regime, which is nasty and responsible for killing thousands and impoverishing millions and turning their country, which is blessed with natural riches, into a despotic backwater. But the sound of bombs pounding Tehran sent a message not only to America's adversaries, but also to its allies. Many invested heavily to stay in President Trump's good graces. Many appealed to Washington not to strike, and many found their appeals and interests overridden by other calculations. None of us here can predict how long this war will last, how stable the eventual ceasefire proves to be, or how it will affect American military presence in other parts of the world. What's clear is that the war is already spreading. The NATO mission in Iraq is being evacuated as we speak. South Korean officials and media report that Washington is already relocating parts of a missile defense system installed in South Korea to the Middle East. Instability threatens our continent as well. Russia's war against Ukraine has violated a fundamental principle that we recognized after 2 bloody wars in Europe: the sanctity of internationally recognized borders. More than 1,000 soldiers on both sides are now killed or wounded every day. Millions of civilians have been displaced. Material losses have reached hundreds of billions of euros. The consequences extend far beyond Ukraine. Each cyber attack, each act of sabotage, each airspace violation inspired by Russia across Europe is a test designed to probe the resilience of our societies and the strength of our cooperation. For decades, Europe based its security on the Transatlantic alliance. The deal was, at core, simple and mutually beneficial. Europeans deferred to the United States on matters of security and in exchange enjoyed the peace dividend that Washington provided. It seems no longer. Subsequent US administrations were right to push Europeans to take security more seriously, and they failed. This one, to give credit where credit is due, President Trump in his first term and now has succeeded. They deserve credit for that, but Europe has also done its bit. Since President Trump's first term in office, European spending on defense overall has doubled. And last year at the Hague summit, we have agreed to double it again to 3.5% of GDP on average, which means that if we do it, we will be at the level of the United States. And our mission is much narrower than the United States. We only need to protect the territory of Europe. We don't have a global network of bases and a global security empire. However, even though non-US NATO members' defense expenditures have, as I said, doubled since President's first term in office, transatlantic relations are strained. Trust in the United States, as evidenced in opinion polls, as a force for good, has declined across Europe. The price for the American security guarantee is rising, while the credibility and scope appear to be diminishing. It's a kind of security shrinkflation, a higher price charged for a smaller product, combined with security Uberization. Like in the popular ride service, you can install the app, agree to all the terms and conditions, pay the price, and wait patiently only to be rejected by the driver at the very last minute. Political rhetoric has become harsher. Rules are dismissed as suffocating. Compromise, once considered the essence of diplomacy, is portrayed as weakness. History teaches us where such thinking can lead. That is why the stakes are so high. For decades after 1945, the global order rested on a simple promise: never again. Never again jingoism. Never again genocide. Never again world war. This resolution shaped organizations, alliances, and norms underpinning international relations. The structures we created were never perfect. They were human creations and therefore flawed. Yet, to millions, they provided decades of relative stability and unprecedented prosperity. Now, as their influence is waning and the geopolitical seas are growing rougher, what comes next for Europe? We still have a choice. We can fragment, engage in petty national scuffles, and allow external powers to shape our future. Or we can move in the opposite direction, towards greater unity, deeper cooperation, and stronger institutions. In my view, only by taking the second path can we succeed. In an era of the unthinkable, Europe has the potential to become something unique, a safe harbor in a turbulent world, a place where rules still matter, a place where businesses are not susceptible to the whims of rulers, where you can have contracts enforced by independent judges, a place where political disagreements are settled through law, not violence. Institutions and norms transcend people. This may be their greatest vice when they suppress individuals' creativity, but it may also be their greatest virtue when they put a stop to an individual's madness. Our stability can become our greatest strength. As The Economist's Europe editor recently put it, in a world in which chaos is becoming the norm, the relative sanity found in Europe is a kind of defiance. But stability alone is not enough. To remain a continent governed by rules, we must have the ability to defend them, politically, economically, and when necessary, militarily. To remain safe, the harbor must be protected. And I know it goes against the DNA of the European Union, because the European Union was founded as an anti-war project. But times have changed, and we need to adapt. Security and deterrence, therefore, become the foundations of Europe's future. Poland, as has already been mentioned, already spends nearly 5% of its GDP on defense. This year, $55 billion. This is not simply a budgetary choice. It reflects a collective memory of history and a determination never again to lose sovereignty. Yet defense spending should not be viewed only through the lens of military necessity. If managed properly, it can stimulate innovation, create high-quality jobs, and strengthen Europe's technological clout. Brand new Made in Europe research, technologies, and industries may emerge from the current turbulences in Italy, in Poland, all over the EU. Security, however, is only one pillar on which Europe's fate rests. Economic vitality is the second. European Union remains one of the world's largest economic areas. Our markets, companies, and workforce represent enormous potential, still not fully tapped. Recent reports by Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta point the way, completing the single market, strengthening capital markets, strengthening innovation, mobilizing our savings. Europe possesses enormous pension funds. If properly channeled, they can finance technological breakthroughs, new infrastructure, and emerging industries. These investments should strengthen not only Europe's competitiveness, but also its cohesion. We already deal with enough social dissatisfaction and resentment. Let us not replicate divisions between North and South, or West and East at the continental level. This rising tide should lift all boats. Human capital is one of Europe's greatest assets. Most of it is homegrown, but our companies and academic institutions remain magnets for talent from around the world, and their attractiveness appears to be growing. A poll by the journal Nature, conducted a year ago, found that 75% of researchers in the United States were considering leaving the country. And let's not put obstacles in their way of coming to Europe. Groundbreaking technologies should originate here in Europe, as they did in the past. The third pillar of Europe's future is values. The European community cannot be based solely on economic cooperation. It never was. We are more than a free trade area. Free trade areas do not defend their borders together. They do not fight global pandemics together. They do not create cohesion funds or common defense initiatives. The European community was built on principles: democracy, civil liberties, respect for the rule of law. These are not abstract ideals. They are practical safeguards that protect societies from sliding into authoritarianism. When we defend them, we defend the foundations of our European civilization. In the emerging global disorder, Europe does not need to imitate great powers that rely on domination or coercion. It does not need to become a ruthless predator in a world of predatory hegemons. Our strength lies elsewhere. The EU has already been called the world's greatest regulatory superpower. Regulations, if overdone, can choke creativity and innovation. But applied in moderation, cleverly, they create a space where rules are stable, markets fair, and institutions effective. Investors, more urgently than ever before, seek stability. Individuals seek freedom and opportunity. If Europe provides both at the same time, talent and capital will come here. Global military presence is not indispensable to achieve global influence or to achieve security. By building a continent where peace, stability, and prosperity are protected by strong institutions, Europe can exert global impact and give global example without pursuing an imperial agenda. It does not need to claim its right to a sphere of influence to actually have one. This vision can be summarized by three interconnected ideals. One, Europe as a geopolitical union capable of defending its interests. Two, Europe as a union of growth and competitiveness, securing prosperity for its citizens. And three, Europe as a union of values, protecting democratic institutions and individuals' freedoms. One cannot function without the others. Security without prosperity is unsustainable. Prosperity without values is hollow. Values without security are vulnerable. Ladies and gentlemen, as wrecking balls are flying around us, the European Union faces a choice. Either it becomes a community capable of action, or it will be reduced to a condominium, or at best, an open-air museum. Only together can we build the strength to deter aggressors, to maintain social cohesion, and to defend the values on which our civilization is based. And last but not least, to earn the respect of our allies, including the United States. Our old continent shaped the world in the past. It can still shape the world's future. Thank you very much.